Hello and welcome to another Ask Us Anything Live with Intrepid English. I go live every Friday to talk about a grammar, pronunciation, or even vocabulary point. And my name is Kate R, and I'm a senior teacher with Intrepid English. So if you like these videos, please click the like button and please click the subscribe button so you get notified every time either myself or one of my amazing colleagues goes live or puts another video on our channel to help your English. So I always talk on this live about a grammar or pronunciation or vocabulary point, and it could be a question that's come from one of our students, or it could be something that is quite useful. So last week it was a question from the students on some modal verbs, talking about possibility. This time I want to talk about obligation and which modal verbs we use, and they are have to, and should. Okay, so have to is not actually technically a modal verb, but it is a synonym of must. And it is very important. So it is one that I do suggest to my students to learn as if it is a modal verb. Okay, let's get started. So with have to and must, we use both of them in pretty much the same way in the positive. Now, you will have people who say, oh, there's an external obligation and an internal obligation. But quite simply, they mean the same in the positive, and I don't think it's necessary to complicate things. They both mean a strong obligation. It is something that you have no choice. You must do. You have to do. It is something it's a very strong obligation. You have no choices. You need to do it. It's a very, very big need. Okay, so children have to go to school from the age of 3 here in France. I must go to the doctor about my hip. Okay, these are obligations. They're very strong obligations. I could say children must go to school from the age of 3. I mean, I really don't think it's necessary to go into the coming from an outside opinion and from your own personal opinion. Just must and have to in the positive, they're the same. It's the negative you have to be careful. Okay, so negative is very different. They don't mean the same. Must in the negative, mustn't, it means you're not allowed. It's forbidden. Absolutely not. Okay, so you mustn't smoke here. You mustn't park on that street. You mustn't, I can't think of anything else, but any other, big no-nos. You mustn't talk to people in that way, okay? But have to in the negative means there's no obligation, that it's your choice. You can, you can't, it's up to you. So my mother says to my daughter, you don't have to eat everything on your plate. Okay, it's your choice. You don't have to. For example, for me, I don't have to work on Sundays. I can if I want to, but I don't have to. There's no obligation. Okay, now that's very different to mustn't, which is you are not allowed, forbidden. Okay. Next, I want to just briefly talk about should. So should is a very mild obligation compared to must and have to. They're very strong. Should, it basically means it's a good idea. So it's strong advice more than obligation. It's a good idea to do something. So you should save some money every month. Yeah, it's a good idea. And in the negative, you shouldn't smoke so much. Yeah, it's a good idea to limit your smoking. Yeah, it's not a good idea to smoke so much. Yeah, you mustn't smoke here. You're not allowed. You don't have to smoke here means be very strange to use it, but you don't have to smoke here. You don't have to smoke. Basically, if you don't want to smoke, don't smoke. It's your choice. There's no obligation, but you shouldn't smoke so much. It's a good idea to limit, or it's not a good idea to smoke so much. Okay, so that's very different in the negative. The other point that is different with must and have to is in the past. Now, I did do another video of the modals in the past, but I'm just going to go into this a little bit with must and have to because it can get a bit confusing. So when we're talking about an obligation in the past, we're going to only use have to. Okay? We don't use must for an obligation in the past. So for example, I had to wear a school uniform when I was a child. Yeah, my school, it was obligatory. I had to wear a school uniform. But in the UK, we didn't have to go to school on Saturdays, unlike the school I went to in Switzerland. We had to go to school on Saturday mornings. But in the UK, we didn't have to go to school on Saturday mornings. Now, when we use must in the past, it's not for obligation in the past, it's for a deduction in the past. So when we're making an opinion about something in the past. So for example, Mary must have left her keys in the office because she doesn't have her keys now. So I'm making an opinion about what happened in the past. I'm making a deduction. So that's when we use must in the past. When we use should in the past, it's meaning that the action didn't happen and we regret it. Like the advice was too late and, it's a shame. So for example, you should have gone to bed earlier. That's why you're tired now, because you didn't go to bed earlier, which was a good idea to do. You didn't do it, and now you're tired. So you should have gone to bed earlier. Okay, so that's just on the modals of obligation. And I think I'll continue doing some more on these modals because they are very interesting. So please be sure to check out next week's video when I will talk more on some more modals. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And of course, if you ever want to ask me your own personal questions, feel free to either comment on at the end of these videos, or of course, you can also book a trial lesson with me through our website, Intrepid English. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful weekend.